Hello and welcome to the DCL podcast. I'm your host, Steve Creasy, inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, your podcast for DCL history, trip reports, and general travel planning. Well, welcome to episode 7, 007 to be exact. Give a little shout out to my favorite British spy, Daniel Craig and James Bond. Some of my favorite movies, and I hope you enjoy them too. Well, in episode 7 here, this is going to be what we hope to be a first of probably a 3-part series to start off with. We're going to talk to Christy Puttock joins me again, and she's going to talk about her recent cruise on the Carnival Vista. And what we're hoping to try and do with this is kind of talk about cruising with Carnival on this episode, and then she'll be back mid-March and talk about her 7-day cruise down to the Caribbean on DCL. And either at the end of that episode or hopefully in actually a third episode, we'll kind of compare and contrast sailing between Carnival and DCL. And rolling with that, my family, or my wife and I, to be exact, actually have in September on Norwegian. And although we're not bringing our kids with us on that cruise, I'll try and kind of do something similar where we compare and contrast sailing with DCL and Norwegian. Well, let's just jump right on into the show this week and welcome Christy Puttock to the show and hear all about sailing on Carnival Cruise Line's Vista. Hope you enjoy it. Well, welcome back to the show, Christy.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Oh, definitely. And today I'm pretty excited about it because we are going to talk about your latest cruise on the Carnival Vista. And that happened just a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yes, I just got back last weekend.
Awesome. And how did you pick this cruise, or why did you decide to go with Carnival? And I think there's a reason why you picked this ship in particular.
This ship just was launched this past May, and the new inclusions that it had really excited me. So the ship as a whole excited me, and as soon as Carnival started leaking out details about the Vista, and they had this cute little video, and it just really intrigued me. And so I definitely wanted to try her out. So I actually rearranged my whole travel schedule. We had several other trips planned at different times for this year, but I rearranged them so that I could get on the Vista this winter.
And was it tough getting on as far as, since it was a new ship, was it pretty tough to get a reservation? I would think that since it's a new one coming out, a lot of people would want to try and get on it.
Yeah, it was not tough. Certain room categories are tough. There is the cutest little area, which the people listening will have to go look up. It's called the Havana section. We couldn't be in there because your children had to be 12 and up. So it's for adults or children 12 and up. And they have their own private pool, their own little bar. It is the cutest little section. And they have these cute little patios, like the suite patios and balcony patios. So as opposed to just a balcony, they have a patio. It's adorable, but that section of the ship sells out. And then they also have another section called the Family Harbor, where you have access to a lounge, and that section becomes limited. So I don't think it sells out as quickly, but there is less availability for certain category types. So the Vista has some different categories, and those categories sell out, but the ship as a whole you can pretty much get on. And in fact, my family, and so cruise, I guess I'll answer this question because I know you'll ask it. With me was my husband, my son, who's 3.5, and my mom came as well, and she gets her own cabin. And we were actually supposed to take this cruise Martin Luther King week, which, as a little tidbit for the listeners, is one of my favorite weeks to travel because at least out here we have that Monday off of work typically. And the schools are closed, so you can sneak in a vacation day during a low time it's not a high price time, which other times a year when kids have off school, those are usually more expensive. Martin Luther King week is typically not. However, my husband had to go to Europe, which I think we actually briefly talked about in the previous podcast because I ended up sneaking a trip to Disney out of it. But right. My husband had to go to Europe, and I could not get him back in time for our cruise. I could not find flights that would get him from Europe to Miami before the ship would leave. So we actually had to move our trip like in November to a different week. maybe October, something like that. It was really late, though. I had almost never booked a cruise that late before, unless I was doing a last-minute booking.
Huh. So, but a good group going with you, with your mom. How did that work out with your mom being in a separate cabin? She usually does the separate cabin?
Yes, we do this quite a bit. Okay. So I think my kid's been on 8 cruises now, and 7 of them she's joined us for.
So before we go back into the Havana and Havana section of the Family Harbor Lounge, what did you guys book, or what did you guys decide? Because I know that on the last one we talked about concierge, and I believe you were talking about booking a concierge type. Is that true on this one as well?
Yeah, so they don't quite have something to that level on Carnival, but they do have suite class. They do have suites, I should say, on their ships. And then within that, there's different categories. Like there's the Havana suite, and then there is a suite in the Family Harbor section, and then there are just the regular suites that are in the upper decks throughout the ship. We booked a suite in the Family Harbor section, so we have access to their lounge, which is sort of like the concierge lounge on Disney, just not as amazing. There's not a person working there to answer your questions or to help you. There are some waiters in there, but it's not the same. But it is nice to have that little area to go to. And they have breakfast down there, so most people that don't have food allergies, for example, would just eat their breakfast right down in the Family Harbor Lounge. The Family Harbor rooms were all on the second floor, which is good when you're trying to leave the ship. It's good when you're getting on the ship. It's good when you're going to dinner. It's really far away from the Lido deck, which is where all their pool and the buffet and stuff like that's located. And it's underneath the lifeboats. So if you have a room with a balcony, you're underneath the lifeboats, which is a whole different experience. Yeah, it's weird. And it's full shade, though. So It's beautiful for my kid and my husband, who are very fair-skinned. Uh-huh. But it pretty much never gets sun. So sometimes at sunset you might get a little bit, or at sunrise, like that, very brief moments when the sun is actually on the horizon. You actually get to see it, but the rest of the time you don't. So it's really good for fair-skinned people and people who don't want to sit in the sun on their balcony. And then you have access to that lounge, which was all very centrally located. So that was convenient.
Okay, so it's kind of like concierge in the sense that you have a separate area that you can go to. There's food that you can eat, like for breakfast. I'm guessing maybe snacks in the afternoon and stuff. But yes. It just doesn't have that level of service where you have an individual that actually is looking out for you in other areas of the ship as far as getting you tickets to events or shore excursions or whatever else.
Exactly. There was supposed to actually be somebody that was there for a couple hours a day, and there was not ever one person that had that role that was in that lounge ever. The other thing that the lounge had, and I will say this, so this is half the price. A suite on Carnival with their Family Harbor access was more than half the price, I would say. It was more than half the price than the concierge suite that we have coming up in a few weeks.
Okay.
So it gives you an idea.
Yeah, right.
You're getting what you pay for in some sense, But so it's great. You get that priority. So the suites get priority boarding, which is awesome. I mean, right there, you can actually pay for it. Carnival has a faster to the fun element, which comes out about, I don't know when. It's crazy. They don't release when they release it, but it's like 90 days before the cruise or something like that. And it sells out quick. So people basically pay like $80 for a week-long cruise to board the ship quicker. And that's a nice feature. You're basically paying for that priority access without having to pay your cruise, making your cruise that much more expensive. So you can have an inside cabin, but faster to the fun.
Gotcha.
So it's like Disney has their own little rules. Carnival does too. Like they have their own little unique nuances. So the lounge also had, which was really cool for the teenagers. There were teenagers in this lounge all the time. Like any hour I was awake, there were teenagers playing video games. They had Xbox, either Xbox or PlayStation, but some machine that had video games. My husband actually was like, I kept looking to see if there were no kids ever so I could go play a little bit too, but they always seem to have kids in the hours that would work for us. But so they would have these groups of teens that were pretty respectful actually the whole time, and I would not be afraid to say something if I thought there was anything inappropriate, and they would just sit and play in their video games in one little corner. Then they have a bunch of seating, a bunch of tables. There is a TV, so my son and I would actually watch cartoons when nobody else was in the lounge, first thing in the morning when he would wake up. And then eventually, like, a lot of time news was on, and people could just, they had the remote control. You could just go up there and change it and put it on whatever you want. They also had board games in the lounge that people could check out. So it had some really nice little features.
Cool. It kind of sounds like the concierge lounge on Disney as well, where they had a lot of that kind of stuff for you to do. Kind of a good place to gather and spend time as a group. But
yeah, there was a multi-generational family that was there because they seemed to have similar hours to us. So in the morning, my kid and I would be sitting in the lounge, and this other family would come, and they would trickle in, and they'd discuss their day, and they were all in different cabins. And the thing about the Family Harbor section, and this was one of the other things that I really liked about the ship, is they had all the way from interiors up to the suite. So if you're a balcony person, you can get a balcony. If you were an ocean view person, you can get an ocean view. My mom actually had an ocean view cabin. For her, it was more of, she's in a scooter when we cruise, just because the walking's hard on her knees. So she needed a handicap accessible cabin. And basically at that point, we were just looking for a handicap accessible cabin near-ish where we were, or near an elevator where we were, something convenient like that. And so she was able to get an ocean view cabin in the Family Harbor section, just a few minute walk away from our room.
Oh, cool. And when you rebooked your cruise, that wasn't a problem staying in the Family Harbor section as far as rebooking it as close to the cruising time frame you did because of your husband? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
It does, and it was not an issue. We had a lot less choice, obviously, for the cabin.
Right.
But since it was such a new ship, there wasn't that many details about which cabin had a better this or that, you know. There were some reviews out there, but there weren't that many, so there wasn't much to go on. And we did pay $600 more, unfortunately.
Is that like a change fee or something like the airlines charge you? Or was it just because it was a higher price at that time?
It was just a higher price at that time.
Okay. So let's talk about your room itself then. What did you think of it?
So they had a split bathroom, which was strange though. In the one room, it was a little shower, which we showered in, it was fine, and a sink and a toilet. And then the other room had, I guess maybe it's the same, had the tub and a sink. So it had a little tub. So much like Disney's, not a normal tub at all, but perfect for bathing a toddler.
Okay.
Really small little rooms, but they worked. And they worked so that the theory is that two people could get ready at a time. And I feel like all the Family Harbor rooms have that set up. So that would definitely be something to look into if there was a family going. Then it slept 5. There were just 3 of us. So I'm not entirely sure where all the beds would have been because we didn't look into that. But it had the queen size bed for us. It was basically like a double cabin. So to give you an idea of the size, and I've said this before, we spend a lot of time in our cabin, so we need the extra space because otherwise we'll all go crazy. So that was one of the reasons that we went with this type of cabin, because we like space. So it just had a bunch of, open floor area. It had a couch, and it was like an L-shaped couch. And what I think happens is that the part of the L, the little part, folds out into a bed, and then I think there's a bunk bed that folds down, and then the long part of the L is another bed. I think that's what happens if you had the 5 people in the room.
Okay.
And my kid just slept on the couch. Like, they just took the couch cushions off the back and did whatever they did to the bottom of the couch and made it his bed.
Do they have a pull down maybe from the ceiling? I'm actually looking at it from on the web here.
Did.
Okay.
I think they did.
So overall, it was pretty comfortable, you would say, as far as spending time in the cabin, as far as the size goes and whatnot?
It was very comfortable. Oh, this cabin had a walk-in closet, or a walk-in, hallway down to the closet, and a whole row of shelves. So basically a cupboard with a bunch of shelves, and then another cupboard that had the safe and some other shelves. So it was kind of great because we could shove our stroller back there, and the car seat fit in the closet. I mean, it fit a little bit tight, but it fit perfectly in there. So that was nice that it was all out of the way.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like right when you walk in the doors, there's like a little hallway there to it. So overall, lots of space, pretty comfortable, and the bathrooms are nice as far as 2 people be able to get ready at one time.
In 2 different rooms.
In 2 different rooms, right.
Could not really fit 2 people in either of those rooms.
Right. Sorry.
At the same time. I mean, my kid can fit, and an adult, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Well, cool.
We
well,
did.
Go ahead.
One little thing for parents too is sometimes we'll travel. Now that he's younger, he's a young toilet user, so to speak. We bring, and he's short, we bring our own folding stool so that he can reach the sink. And in this case, it worked out well to do that. So I'm glad we did that. So we had like a little folding, stool, I guess, so he can get up there. And then we would sometimes bring, well, we do bring now, his little folding potty seat to put on top of the seat.
Uh-huh.
In this room, it wasn't really necessary. So if you have young people going on this ship, I wouldn't think you need that.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of a cool idea, bringing that with. All right, let's go back to the ship itself, I guess. When you guys first got there, saw it, and what were your overall thoughts of the ship? I think it'd be kind of cool to see something new like that, I would guess.
It's a cool ship. I mean, there is no denying it's a cool ship. And they really crammed a lot into this ship. So while I don't agree with all of the way they designed it, and we can get into some of that with some of the entertainment space and stuff later, but it's a really, really cool ship. And so when you get there, you're excited. So ahead of time, because we're researchers, right? So I had done a bunch of research and been watching lots of things and, following on Facebook about the ship and stuff like that. So right when you walk in, on other Carnival ships, they have these big atrium and big glass elevators, and it's like floors and floors high. So, and I mean like 10 stories high. So not just like Disney's, not 3 stories, it's really high. This ship, they reverted back. So I know we're not doing a comparison in this episode about Disney, but it was sort of more akin to the Disney where it's just a few stories high, the atrium. And they have in the middle, I don't even know what it's called. I should have figured out what the name of this was, but it's not a fountain, but it was kind of a fountain of light, if you would,
Okay.
that changes, and they change and it's the very middle of the ship, and Carnival will change what's on it. Like one day they had swimming the stingrays, and the other days they had like grass that looked like it was growing. It was just crazy, and like people were in love with this thing, and every day they wanted to see and it was really interesting and neat, and every day it was something different. So that was really pretty at the very beginning.
What about the pool areas then? And what did you think about those areas?
They're small-ish, but much like every cruise line. I mean, right? Every cruise line's small. So the really cool thing is if you had one of those Havana cabins, you get your own little pool, and that pool is private to you until 7 o'clock. So it's a little pool. My husband and I snuck back there. After 7 p.m., anybody can go back there. But one day we were just walking around at like 4 and just walked through the doors and looked. But so it's a little tiny pool. But then they have 2 additional pools that bigger than Disney's, frankly, because Disney has some pretty small pools too. I just feel like there's more people in them, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Yeah.
And like they don't have a 0 entry area at all, and the only way into these pools is by the steps. So it's really difficult I do believe though they have a wheelchair lift. So if somebody wanted to do that, but the only other way into the pool is going up and down the steps that are straight up and down. So those are difficult for people with mobility issues. But they have a bunch of like seating, and so there were several days the water is cold. So they refill the water every day, and it's not heated in any way. And it is also salt water. So something to just keep in mind. It is cold. Wow. So it's quite nice when you're in a warm spot, but when your kid wants to go swimming earlier in the day, it's pretty chilly. It was funny. There were all these people, like literally this was conversation every single day. You kind of had to work your way into it and then just know that you're going to freeze. My husband would be like, yeah, you're only cold for like a minute or two where you feel like you're going to pass out, and then you get used to it.
After you're numb, then you're good to go.
Yeah.
So it looks like they had a play area as well around the pools as far as water slides. Is it kind of differentiated between smaller kids and bigger kids, or is it just all one big area?
It's all one big area.
Okay.
You have to be potty trained to use any of the areas on this pool. So Disney does have a section for non-potty trained kids, and they do not on the Vista. They don't have any water area that a non-potty trained kid could go into.
Okay. Anything else about the ship that stood out to you as far as things you get to do on it, or just overall kind of impressions of it?
Oh, well, I mean, so many. So one of the things is they do have really cool entertainment. They also have a lot of entertainment spaces. later as the night goes, and my husband and I, we're just not that late at night people. I can't stay up. He would be up late. I just can't stay up late. So, like, you know, we can party at like 9:30. And then, you know, staying up to 10:30, 11 is really late for me. But we went to the piano bar one night, and that was really towards the end of the cruise. So I wish we would have gone there sooner. It's smoke-free, which is wonderful. And they have a casino. So they have a casino. So lots of people, that's a big difference. People love casinos, and I know there are a lot of people that cruise Disney that are like, where's the casino? So they have one, but they allow smoking in it, and it really smells. So, and it also like cuts into the middle of the cruise ship, and so there would be times where you're either walking through the casino or you literally have to go up floors and go around. And this is one of the things that Carnival does not so well, in my opinion, is that they also have the dining rooms in the middle of the ships, so that if you need to get into certain areas, you have to go around the dining room and around the galley. So you're going up and down stairs because you can't cut across the floors like you could for the most part on Disney. I mean, there's very little dead ends, but there's a lot of dead ends on Carnival. A lot. Like, I actually went and got my mom a scooter for her before she arrived on board. Because what happened was priority got to board first. And what we did this time is, and we do this often, where my son and I are on one reservation, and then my mom and husband are on the other. And that's because she's a single, and she would have to pay double. For the double occupancy, you have to pay like your two, basically. So we just throw him in there. And then this also afforded me the opportunity to get the drink package, which we could talk about in a minute. But I went, so we were priority, just my kid and I. And we got to board first. Well, my mom was in the scooter, would be getting her scooter on the ship and uses like a cane and stuff. So she got to go through the special services line. They boarded, and my husband just boarded with her. And so they boarded, they didn't get to board at the same time as us. So that's one thing. Typically on Disney, they would just let us board at the same time. So my kid and I were on like probably a whole hour before they did. And that's when the rest of the people, like the boarding is much slower, I feel like, on Carnival than on Disney. But so I went and got my mom's scooter just to make life easier. And my kid and I just kept getting stuck places. And the elevators are pretty small. And we'd find these dead ends. Like we were trying to get to the food area, but you couldn't like get across. And so it was comical to say the least. But one thing I'll say though, that was amazing with Carnival is right when I boarded, you board right on deck 3, which is where their guest services is located. And it's right in the middle. I was able to go right then and there and change my husband into my cabin. He wasn't even on board yet. Wow. And they printed him his sail and sign card and gave it to me and said, here you go. And I was able to get him squared away and placed into my room before he ever even boarded, which was really nice. A lot of the other cruise lines, because we do this on pretty much every line, make you wait until after the lifeboat drill. So we didn't have to worry about that, which was really nice. Yes. The drink package. So we tried it. So Carnival has drink packages. They have one for pop because they don't include your soda in the price of the cruise. But remember, you're paying thousands of dollars less for your cruise, so you can pay for your own soda if you're a drinker of it. They will let you bring in wine, but just 2 bottles. And then they let you bring in Coke, but I think like 6 cans or something. They also sell it at a pretty reasonable price if you wanted it in your stateroom. But so you could get a pop package, or you can get a alcohol package. And I decided to try it. It ends up being about $55 a day for every day of the cruise. So it's a lot. There's probably no way that we drank that much. And I actually went scuba diving one day and had some little reaction after. So I couldn't even drink that day. And then I don't drink the day I dive. So I didn't drink, or the day before. So I didn't drink the day before very much. So it was like, I didn't get a lot of use out of it for that, but it included all your coffee drinks, and they had a milkshake place too, which is where they had the coffee as well, and it included your milkshakes, and we got a lot of milkshakes on this cruise.
It must have been pretty warm then, huh?
It was warm, yeah. And but it was just like they were so good. Like there was the place that you got either your coffee drink or your milkshake. I mean, this place was jam-packed all the time. And I would say, so that was one of the things, it never made any sense to me why there wasn't 2 people working. The guy that worked in this area was like amazing. He was so quick, but how quick can you be?
Right.
for all of the people in these long lines. So, like, there was always a line there, but it was fine because he was pleasant and everybody in the line was pleasant, and he would make you, like, whatever drink. If you couldn't decide what you wanted and you just said you want either this or that or you want it to taste like this, he could make it all up. So it was really nice. They had loaded milkshakes as well and loaded coffee drinks that you could get under your drink package as well.
Well,
so that was fun.
So $55, that covered alcohol, coffee, and sodas.
Yes, and water, bottled
and water. Okay. And
covered everything.
I'm guessing if you have that, I mean, in some ways it's just a convenience too, isn't it? Rather than having to pay every time as far as when you get a drink. I mean, it just kind of makes it nice not having to worry about that, right?
Right. You never, and your sale and your account on board is never going up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you've prepaid for that. If you buy it before, it's like $5 less a day or something if you buy it before the cruise. So we did that.
Okay.
And they say no sharing, but I will say that besides pre-purchasing my husband, he drinks pop. He drinks like 2 a day.
Uh-huh.
Pre-purchasing him 6 cans to keep in our room, and like he would take that to lunch and stuff like that sometimes. But we never bought him 1 pop.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, I guess I broke the rules, but I didn't drink nearly as much alcohol as I could have. So I think they were still fine. And then I would get virgin strawberry daiquiris because both my boys, my husband and my kid, they love them. So they sit and just, you know, suck them down. So we'd get those a few times. They're sugary, so we don't overdo it. But that's kind of a treat that we'll do in our house. I'm trying to think what else. You know, I have wine at dinner pretty much every night.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have a glass. And then sometimes cocktails. On the nights my husband and I would go out, my mom would put my kid down. I would have a few more drinks that night.
Okay. Well,
at the pool, there was like, you know, they have the fun drinks at the pool, and they have a lot of bartenders, and there were a couple people that would remember you. So it was just like in that part, I think they did really well.
Yeah, it's kind of nice when you can build that rapport with one of the people going around the pool areas. It's kind of fun over the course of the cruise.
And with the drink package, you could get an alcoholic beverage and a non at the same time. So they would let me get a Coke pretty much at the same time, or at the same time as my fruity cocktail. Or they'd let me get a bottle of water and a Coke. You just couldn't get 2 alcoholic beverages at the same time.
Try and keep you under control a little bit, huh?
Well, yes, and they don't want you to share it. And I get that. But again, there's no way I spent the money on alcohol that I spent on the drink package, so I feel like we were fine.
Would you do it again, do you think?
The drink package?
Yeah. I guess
if it was a shorter cruise.
Yeah.
And like you said, I guess it depends.
Right.
Like if I'm going scuba diving, I don't know that I would, because you shouldn't drink before you dive.
Right.
The day before. It's really important not to do that. And so that day's kind of a wash, you know. For us, it was really at the beginning of the cruise, so I felt like it wasn't that big of a deal. And then I would have drank that evening a bit more and that afternoon and stuff, but like I said, I had a little reaction, and I actually went to the shipboard doctor, and that was an experience, but he told me not to drink that night just to monitor me.
Well, we covered the drink package. Let's talk about food then. What did you guys do for food, or how did you kind of approach food on this cruise?
They have 2 different seating options for dinner, at least. So you could either be in assigned seating, much like every other cruise line, where you have your table and your waiter every single night. And then they have anytime seating where you just show up anytime between like 5:30 and 9. The issue with anytime seating is there seemed to be a pretty big line to check in, especially if you wanted to eat early.
Uh-huh.
So just something for people to keep in mind if this is something they're considering. So if you wanted to eat, like if you want to eat at 7, I feel like there's a line to get a table because that's a popular time to eat. But if you want to eat at 5:30 or 5:45, which is the beginning of when the anytime seating people could eat, that was also an issue because there was always a line to check in to go to get your table for anytime seating.
So we did Norwegian a couple years ago, and Norwegian kind of does that anytime seating. You go eat whenever you want. And we kind of ran into the same thing where if you showed up right as the dining room opened, there was a pretty big crowd. But they gave you like a little buzzer, you know, like you get at a restaurant. And then they'd also give you a drink coupon for some champagne. So we kind of gamed it that way. So we'd show up, get our buzzer, get our drink coupon, go back to the central lounge area, and they always had live entertainment, like live music. So we'd sit there and listen to whoever's playing the piano or the guitar that night, have our drink, and then about that time it would buzz and go off. Do they have anything like that, or were you just kind of stuck in line until you could get in?
I think they have a buzzer.
Okay.
We did not have that dining. We had the set dining
seating.
at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and with all cruises, it's always a little bit slow that first night, and it's always a little bit slow that second night. But we had amazing wait staff. Our waiter was absolutely wonderful. So that was really helpful. And we kind of said even that my kid will expire, so it can't be a 2-hour meal for us. And that worked out well. We had a table of just the 4 of us, which was nice. So, and I know some people like to share, but it was, when you have a younger kid, it's good to just kind of have your own table.
So did they have specialty restaurants, I'm guessing, too, that you could do if you wanted, or was everything just the dining room?
No, they do. They have, so during the day, there's numerous eating options. So we can talk about that in a minute. But for the evening, they had a steakhouse, which we didn't go to. And you can actually order the steakhouse steak in the dining room and just pay an upcharge for your meal. So that's something to consider if people wanted to do that. But the steakhouse was pretty popular, and it was being sold out leading up to this cruise. This is the research so we just didn't even bother. And the dining room food was fine, and so we just went with that. Plus then we can eat with our kid and stuff, so that's always nice. But then they have a sushi restaurant. That one you don't need reservations for. You can just go to anytime you want in the evening, and that is an a la carte menu. And they also have an Italian restaurant that is a pay to get in type place.
And from previous podcasts you've been on, we know that you're celiac. How did that work out as far as letting Carnival know ahead of time kind of the needs that you guys had as far as specialty foods? Was that easy to do with them, or
so I will say that this is the first cruise that I've had no gluten reaction ever. Like, Disney is pretty great, but I have always been gluten. One of the times it was totally my own doing. Just an accident. I picked up my kid's fork and started eating with it, and and then I realized, oh my God, what did I just do?
Right.
So, but there's always been a time I've been glutened, and even on Disney where one of the times they don't know how it happened, but I was. So this is the only cruise that I've had no issues with whatsoever. Now, I say that, but for lunch, some of the time, it was because I had to be pretty insistent. And I had to have too many conversations with a couple of people about cross-contamination and about, well, if you touch that same lettuce with the same hand that you've been touching flour food, then I can't eat it. That's how bad it is. So there were, even the people that were the head of that restaurant didn't get it. So in that regard, they weren't as good. But when they actually got it right, I wasn't sick at all.
Awesome.
So it eventually made it where I would just eat they have Guy's Burgers. So I don't know if you've ever heard about that. Guy Fieri has a little burger stand. Their burgers are amazing. And they'll do either a regular hamburger or a cheeseburger, and they can put toppings on it for you. And I ended up just eating a burger every day. And then a few days, so we were on an 8-night cruise. And so a few days in, I finally, I lost my cool, I'm not going to lie, because they weren't getting it. And I kind of knew the process. I go and they say you have to wait. Well, it already waited and blah, blah, blah. You don't need the rest of the story. I yelled at them. So I go back to my table because I'm just forget it. This isn't going to happen. And this manager follows me. And our table was really far back from where this guy's stand was. And he goes, I am so sorry. Let me get you something. And he goes, for the rest of the week, if you're going to eat a burger, just find me. And I would literally just go up, and he would be waiting for me because we ate at about the same time every single day. And he'd be like, okay, I'm going to get your burger going for you.
Awesome.
And it wasn't an issue. So it was it took a little bit, and then they were perfect. And at dinner, it was so great. They did the same thing as on Disney where you pre-pick your food the day before. And so we picked my meal, and they made some amazing stuff gluten-free for me. It was really, really good. And I got to eat warm chocolate melting cake for 8 nights in a row. So that is basically a chocolate souffle. So it's undercooked chocolate brownie basically with little vanilla ice cream on the side. It's amazing. And I got to eat that for 8 nights.
So it sounds like it's kind of a little bit of a learning curve maybe for the crew on the ship as they get exposed to more people that have different needs. It sounds like once they recovered, they did an awesome job. It's just maybe a little bit of a learning curve on their part.
For sure. One day the day before I went scuba diving, actually, I went to the Lido deck, so the buffet, to get breakfast before I got off. And I was getting off the ship. I had to meet off the pier at 7:30 a.m. I mean, it was early. So I needed to eat a little breakfast. And I went to the Lido deck. So I tell somebody, I need to talk to a chef, because apparently that's the process, just like Disney, you talk to a chef. I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And I think I had to yell at somebody that day, too, and say, look, I have to be off this ship in 20 minutes, and I still have had no food. Is somebody coming? So finally, though, I just saw hard-boiled eggs, so I just grabbed 2 of them. And I peeled my eggs. And then eventually some chef came over and goes, oh, well, yes, I can help you. I'm like, well, that was like, I needed that 25 minutes ago. The rest of the days, so there was like a hostess in the dining room that helps with the special meals. I was so confused about what her role is. She was like the maitre d' on other cruises. But she would just put an order for me, because they do these brunch days at sea on Carnival. So they'll have like a whole brunch where you can get fancy food and stuff like that. So I ordered Eggs Benedict, and she just put an order in for me for the rest of the week at that point of Eggs Benedict. So either my mom and I, or all 4 of us, or just my kid and I, like some combination. I think once I just went myself, I would just go to the dining room for breakfast and eat Eggs Benedict every day. So, and it was really good. Those are things that I don't get to have all the time. So there were some foods, it was like the food almost got better, though. My whole family sort of felt this way as the cruise went on. Some of the meat quality wasn't quite as good as I would have seen on other cruise lines, but like it got better as the week went on. So that was weird. But it was, overall the food was good. At buffet, at lunch, in the buffet, the food was weird.
Just different.
I'm going to be perfectly honest there.
Yeah.
Like my husband would say, there was no rhyme or reason. They would have like a meat pie next to something completely unrelated, and none of it had a side dish that would go properly with a meat pie. Like, it was just random food that they just put out.
Like they're trying to get rid of everything. Hey, we got some extra stuff over here. Let's put that out there for lunch today. So
no, for real. Well, and always the carving station always seemed to have like the meat from leftover last night type of thing. So it was like, so that was weird. So that's why I kind of ate a burger every day, because it was easier. My kid, actually, we had to go back. I mean, this was a long cruise, so there was a lot of days to need food. We actually just went and ordered him room service one day. They had peanut butter and jelly on the room service menu. I just ordered that and brought it back down for him to eat, because there was nothing besides chicken tenders that were sort of appropriate, and we don't give him chicken tenders. So it was weird.
But overall, besides lunch, it was food was
overall it was
good.
good, and I gained 5 pounds, so it couldn't have been bad. Warm chocolate melted cake for 8 days in a row, right there.
Well, cool.
I don't care what else the food was, because all I cared about was warm chocolate melted cake.
Warm chocolate melted cake, yeah. Well, let's move on. How about the kids clubs and activities for kids on the ship?
One of the things I really like about Carnival is that they divide up their kids club, which is good for people with one kid. So I know that families really like the kids club, that all the kids can be together, but it is a little bit overwhelming, in my opinion, for kids that are 3-year-olds to be playing with the kids that are 10-year-olds. I mean, that's a pretty big size difference. So Carnival divides them. There's my son's group was 3 to 5, which I think is a pretty good age group. And they give you a schedule. There are definitely more limited hours in the kids club than on other cruise lines. So there are less hours, and then in the evening you actually have to pay for them to be in there, and they close during certain periods of time, so it's not just open all day long. I do know that you can leave your kids in there if you were to go to port without them. And they have a schedule, and they tell you the different things they do. Honestly, we didn't take that much advantage. We used it. So Carnival has a relationship with Dr. Seuss, so they actually do like a Seuss lunch or brunch on board. They also have a reading room where you can check out books, which is awesome. And there were a ton, and these books were in pristine condition. So, and we could go in there, and we did this several times, where you just went in there and played in this reading room. And then one day there was a family, they have family activities pretty much every day as well. And so we did those a couple times, where they had a craft day the one time. And this was like just before dinner is usually when these would occur. So they had several different craft things out that you could do as a family. And then they had Build-A-Bear, so they have a relationship with Build-A-Bear. And so my kid came home with like a $50 bear, which is insane. That was all Grandma's doing.
Yeah.
So
that's what Grandmas are for, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was a Blake and Grandma activity. So so that was good for them. And then they did like a scavenger hunt one day as a family activity that actually my son and my mom did together. So it was like they had some cute stuff like that. They also had a little playground just to the left of the kids club that was outside on the deck. Like, it had walls up, but it was outside. And they have one on the right-hand side for teenagers or tweens, like with lasers and lights and something goes on in there. I'm not entirely sure what, but there's something guided they can do in that little area. And then on the other side, they had like a little kid area. So it was really nice that they offered that. You could actually do these activities with your kids. Their sports deck is amazing. So obviously that would be for older kids. They have a giant twister. Like, how fun is that?
Wow. Yeah.
So, like, the things on the wall that you spin, and a huge board painted, basically, into the floor of Twister. They have the big, just like Disney, they have a basketball court. They turned into a volleyball court. One day, my husband and I were on a walk, and there was, like, a huge competition going of this volleyball game. And, you know, they were, like, having winners, and it was incredible. People were really getting into it.
Like I like the idea of you being able to do some of those activities with your kids, because kind of, you know, in Disney, from my experience, you know, you kind of drop your kids off and they do stuff there with the counselors, which is great. But it'd be kind of cool to do some of those things together with them.
Yeah.
So I like that idea.
They have pool. They have putt-putt. So their putt-putt is smaller, but they have it on the deck, so you could do that with your kid. They have, and this is all like on the sports deck, so this is what everybody can do. They have table, like foosball. They have foosball tables. They had pool, which I'm not sure how that works at sea. But, I mean, they had a lot of stuff on the sports deck that you could do. They have that waterworks we sort of talked about earlier out by the pool. I mean, it's not really by the pool. It's over in the sports deck area. Two of the new things on this ship, too, that are exciting is Sky Track or Sky Ride. It's like this big suspended bicycle in the air, and you go around the edge of the ship. We did not experience that because the lines had consistently been about an hour, and I wasn't looking to for an hour to pedal my bike at sea. But that's a possibility.
Huh. Well, cool. So overall,
cool.
Overall, your son had a really good time when you spent the time in the clubs?
Yeah, so we never left him, though.
Okay.
But we did open play with him, and he actually even talked about going back. But I don't know, somehow it's like these days get so quick, and like if you go swimming for a little bit, then it just I don't know, the days just flew by.
Oh, no, yeah. No, I can't even talk. Our last one, our oldest one would go in, our youngest one would go in the evening, but he just really wanted to play in the pool with us in the afternoon. So we used it a lot more the first cruise than we did on the second, where we were just kind of more together as a family, I guess. So yeah, each one.
My kid's a little bit skittish or whatever, and isn't wonderful with new experiences. And it really takes him a long time to like lean into it. He goes to daycare and absolutely loves it. And actually, the day we came back, he was like, "I get to go to daycare tomorrow." Like or just school. He's super excited. But the idea of dropping him off at the kids club, I think he would do fine, but he would cry, and I can't do that yet.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. So you know what? I totally am remiss on this. Let's go back. Where did you guys go? It's an 8-day cruise, and we didn't even talk about that, I guess.
Yeah, we went to the Southern Caribbean.
Okay.
So, and actually, these ports were, so Carnival mixes it up. This ship, just as an idea, does a 6-day 1 week and then alternates and does the 8-day the next week. So the 6-day is a Sunday to Saturday, the 8-day is a Saturday to Sunday. And it alternates Eastern/Southern Caribbean for the 8-day cruises and then the Western for the 6-day. We were on the 8-day, obviously, and we went to the Southern Caribbean. And it was exciting. It was ports that either I hadn't been to, I cannot remember if I've been to Aruba before, or it's been a really long time. So Aruba was one of the ports. Curacao was another one, or Curacao, I guess is how they say it, right? Dominican Republic, and then Grand Turks and Caicos.
And you left out of where?
Miami.
Okay.
And let me just say, too, this was the calmest cruise I have ever been on. There were, I have this little problem as I've gotten older where I start to get, when I get off the ship at the last day, I still need to take Dramamine for another day because I get a little motion sickness. I'm still feeling it. I ran out of it and we didn't even have an issue. Like my mom she'll bring some. She never had to take it at all. And this cruise was calm. And I don't know if it's how they built the ship, but it was amazing. I have never had a more calm cruise. And like, you know how in Disney you're usually like, you feel it because you have so far to go. Well, we went all the way to Aruba. and had to come back from Aruba, and we didn't feel it. So Grand Turk is the day that I went scuba diving, and it was good. And then my family just stayed on board. My husband had considered, they just went on some adventures together, but my husband had considered taking him right at that port. They have a beach, and so that's something everybody can know if they make that stop in the future. They have a beach right there, like you literally walk off the ship and there's a beach. They also have a Margaritaville that's right there that has a pool, and it's very popular, so you can take your kids to the pool or whatever and swim. And they were going to do that, and they just didn't. I will say that the beach was crowded. So I got done scuba diving at around 11:30, and the beach was really crowded. But it's soft. I mean, that sand, I don't know if you've ever been to Turks and Caicos. That sand is soft, and it is like just white, just super, really, really lovely soft. The water is gorgeous.
Powdery. How was the scuba diving?
It was good.
Yeah.
I felt like there could have been better locations. I really actually liked the dive shop a lot, and we got lucky. There was 2 groups of us. There were 2 ships in that day, and there were 2 dive boats, and so they divided them up. And we actually were lucky that I got on a boat that only had 6 divers total. So it was really nice to have such a small group because it just, you have a bunch of space and everything. But I felt like they did pick, and I don't know why, but locations that were really close, and they maybe could have, there's a million dive sites there. So we didn't get to see a lot, but we saw turtles in each one, which was awesome, and that's always a rarity.
Yeah, I love seeing turtles.
I'm glad I did it.
So that was Turks and Caicos. What about Aruba?
Aruba, my plan, it was gorgeous that day. So let me go back.
Okay.
The next day, we were going to Dominican Republic, and
Gotcha.
The plan for us was just stay on board, utilize the pools when nobody was in them, and there was not very many people left on board. It was awesome during the day when nobody's there. So that's definitely something to consider, is that you can really access pretty much anything. Things like the Sky Ride and stuff like that weren't open, so we couldn't experience that without a line until much later when people would get back. But it was really nice kind of having the ship to yourself. So our plan was to just stay on. So we did. And then the next day was Curacao. And you didn't arrive there until 1:30. Our plan was to go to the little aquarium that they had. So we actually got off and just went to the taxi stand, took a taxi, which my husband and I are still irritated about. They just ripped people off. There's a sign at the taxi that says it's $20 a taxi. Well, we get on, and much like in St. Thomas, where they just shove everybody in a vehicle and take the people where they're going, they did the beach, and then at the same stop as the beach is the aquarium. They charge everybody $5. Well, that means that this taxi car costs $50, but the sign says 20. So and nobody else was like noticing. I go, people, the sign says 20. Whatever. I didn't pay for the kid because we just had him sit on my husband's lap. And so I wasn't paying for him. He didn't get a seat. And the way back, though, we paid our normal $20, and there was a cabin. But this aquarium is tiny, tiny. I can get you the name, but there's really only one aquarium in Curacao, so I think people would find it. It is an excursion that Carnival does where they go there into a beach, and we just went there. It was awesome. We saw the best sea lion show and the best dolphin show. And this aquarium, actually, it's called Ocean something, but they actually take the dolphins out into the ocean and have them, live their life there and then bring them back. So I felt like it was, not a harming the animals type situation. And they have big ponds for them, and they're part of the ocean. So it's like ocean water, and they just have rock walls where the actual ocean is and stuff. So we were so glad we went there. So it was like $21 for each adult to get in, and it was just a great experience. And then on the way back, my kid and I we were taking pictures of the ship, and he goes, I'm going to come with you. And he stepped on these rocks, and then he fell, and he scratched his leg all up. And
no.
Yeah, it was really bad. I mean, it was really bad, almost like I was thinking, am I going to need to get stitches? I didn't even sleep good that night because I was concerned that he needed stitches. He ended up being fine, but the next day was Aruba, and because we weren't sure how his leg was, and I was concerned about the salt water and the sand getting in there, we didn't get off the ship. The plan was that we would go to a beach, and I think I picked Eagle Beach. I just did some research and stuff. I have this little Caribbean cruise book, and I look at that and decide where we're going to go based on that book. We're going to go to Eagle Beach, and it turns out that in some regard it's probably good because I heard that the beach chairs were like $45.
Wow.
To get 2 beach chairs and an umbrella there, so that's something to consider. That's really expensive. But the beaches are supposed to be absolutely gorgeous in Aruba. So we'll just have to go back there again. We ended up swimming. The salt didn't affect his leg. So that's good. But we could never have known that.
No, and better to be safe than sorry, too. So
Exactly.
Right.
And his leg healed really good. I actually think that the pool salt water really helped him. Like, he still had his Band-Aid on, but, you know, some of that water has to get through that Band-Aid. His leg healed really fast and really, really quickly. So we were very grateful for that.
Come on Carnival and experience our healing waters.
Yes. There you go.
There we go. A new slogan for next year.
Yeah.
All right. So then from Aruba, it looks like you guys had 2 days at sea, and then we're back at Miami.
Yep. Good job.
How'd you like that, having the ports, bam, 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 and then having the 2 days, rather than maybe having 1 day at sea in between the ports to kind of break it up a bit?
Well, that would have been good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exhausting. We did it where we had our own days on the ship, and it was great because the people weren't there.
Right.
So, because otherwise it would be exhausting because you're just going.
Uh-huh.
The last day, actually, that 8th day, I think we were all just exhausted. Which, how are you exhausted on vacation? But, you know, we were just sort of vacationed out. I don't even know if that's right. We were just all chill.
Yeah.
We all stayed in our room, pretty much, our cabins, for a good part of the day, like up until 3 o'clock, I think. My son went to my mom's room for a little bit, but my husband and I actually, one awesome thing about Carnival is you could prop the doors, whether they say you should or shouldn't. We brought a bungee cord, and we bungee corded our door open. And because we were on the second floor, you were just like right there with the ocean. It was awesome. We had the best ocean air coming in, the best sound of the waves. So we laid in bed, actually, read books, and just listened to the ocean for hours. Oh my God, it was heaven. And my son played in my mom's room for a while and then requested to come back to our room.
Uh-huh.
I think they even had room service sandwiches in there. We had nap time, and it was like we all, I think, just needed a little time in our own little oasis.
Yeah. Well, after all that time together, it's kind of nice to have that chill time where you can just relax.
Well, you're not with 3,900 of your favorite friends, I guess.
So I think the only thing we haven't touched on is entertainment. What you said, there's obviously tons of different entertainment options on the ship. What did you guys experience, or what did you guys do?
Well, we really liked, much like your Norwegian cruise, they had live music in the atrium every evening, and so it was really nice before dinner to hear that. So some of the times, actually, my mom would have my son just before dinner, and so my husband and I could get a drink, and we could sit and listen to it. It was just it was lovely. We really enjoyed that. They have, in the evening, in a lounge, they have, like a theater, they have a show every night, much like every other cruise line. We did not see those shows. So, shame on us. But, you know, often with my son, we just aren't up that late, I guess. I don't really know what the issue is, but we just don't get to seeing it very often. But the one issue that this ship has is, so there's 4,000 guests, right? Just about 4,000 guests.
Right.
The theater seats 1,800. No, 900. And there's 2 shows. So 1,800 of the 4,000 guests get to see the show. That becomes a problem. And I think that was part of the reason we just didn't even bother, because we knew that in the lower level, they also have these chairs that can be removed so that it can become a nightclub. I just don't, I just feel like they were trying to utilize their space in a smart way, and I just am not sure that they were effective at that.
Is it first come, first serve as far as the shows go? So there's no way to like pre-plan ahead of time or anything?
No, you can't get tickets, and it's first come, first serve. The upper floor of it has more, has seating that is at like a theater where, you know, the seats in front of you are lower than the seats behind you, but that's not the case really on the first floor. So it's like, I think I had read that it's hard to even see. So not ideal. But we did go to the Love and Marriage show, and it was hilarious, as they usually are. I said earlier, my husband and I went to the piano bar. That was every night, and that was awesome and so much fun. And it's like a small room, and the guys really playing the piano. It was great. It was so much fun. And then they have a comedy club, which is different. And they have like 3 comedians a night. And they actually pick up, well, maybe 2 comedians a night with like 4 or 5 shows or something. They pick up comedians in each of the ports or whatever. So they have you could go to comedy 1,000,000 times. Each show is only 20 minutes long, which is kind of strange in my opinion. And this also is crowded, and people are like standing in line, and it's quite competitive, apparently, especially in the evening hours to get seats. But the show's only 20 minutes. So if you show up at the last minute and you just stand in the back, it's not that big a deal. You can stand for 20 minutes.
Right.
So people just need to remember that. But it was hilarious. My husband and I went one night, and we just went to one of them that was a PG show. That's so family friendly, so you could take your kids. And it was really funny. So we were glad we did that.
Did they have a hypnotist on board by any chance?
I don't know. I didn't even do a good job of reading what the entertainment was every night. So there was a couple of shows that are supposed to be really good. One of them is like Flick, and I think it's like movies, songs, and dance or something about movies. That one is supposed to be really, really good. And then there's one other production-y music show that's supposed to be really good, but I don't remember what it's called.
Okay. A friend of mine is a hypnotist, which that's a whole other side story.
Yeah.
But he goes out on Carnival cruises all the time, all over the world, and he'll fly in, be on the ship for like 2 days, and then be back again. He lives in Orlando, and I'm hoping to con him into coming on the show, because I'd love to like just hear what his experience is like being an entertainer, going on and off these ships all the time. But anyways, that's all. So both,
for whatever reason, the piano bar guy and who was filling in for some other gal who was sick apparently, and the comedian. So one night, my husband and I did both of those things. They both felt the need to like give us all kinds of information about them, about like their life. So they have them in the crew quarters, typically the entertainment. I think if there's another bed available somewhere else, they stay there. But otherwise, these entertainers stay in the crew quarters. So they're staying in these small little inside rooms at the bottom of the ship. And they have like limited internet. It's a different experience, apparently.
Yeah. That's why I'm just kind of curious, like the behind the scenes kind of look at what it's like to entertain on something like that, or just come and go like that. But
for sure, you'll have to get that.
Yeah. So, well, cool. Is there anything else that you can think of that we haven't touched on?
This is weird. Not a good thing. There's only 2 outlets in your cabin, and they're both at the desk.
What?
So right?
A brand new ship? You'd think they'd have like, USB ports and everything else. So
I mean, in my family alone, we have 3 iPads and then the 2 iPhones. I mean, that's 5 electric items just in my little family of 3. I can only imagine so they also have 2 USB hubs, but they are viewed as far as the electronics, like a computer hub. It would not charge my iPad. So, which was weird. So that's it. 2 plugs.
Wow.
2 plugs at the desk. So you definitely want to bring a splitter. I mean, you can't bring a whole bungee or a whole, what are those things called?
Like power strip or something?
Yeah, but bring one of the little ones for sure. The other thing that Carnival has that's great is they have this app called the Carnival Hub. And I actually think this does work better than Disney. It's $5 for the cruise. So it's not free, but remember, you're paying half the price for your cruise. So sometimes things you could pay for. It's $5 per device. And then you can text with each other during the cruise. And they also have different internet packages. I'm sorry, were you going to ask?
No, I was going to say, with that app, is it kind of like Disney's too, where it has like all the information on it, kind of your personal navigator, where you know what's going on today and what's being served at whatever restaurant?
It's even better because it has a live map, or it has a map on it as well. So you'll say that they'll say these are the hours something's going on, or this thing is occurring. Did I lose you?
Nope, you're back.
Oh, okay. There was a weird noise. Okay, so sorry about that. They'll say this is the hours that something's occurring, and you could click on it and find out, like it'll blow up the map and find out where it's located on the ship.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So that was good. And then the different internet packages, you can do a $5 per day package that is for just social media. So like the kids are going to be into this one where they can Snapchat and all that stuff. But you can access Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So you could Facebook Messenger somebody too from home for $5 a day. Now, we purchased the $16 a day package that got you basically value internet, they call it. So like we could not get to YouTube or some other faster downloading items. Like I couldn't download any podcasts while I was gone under this internet plan. And so that was good. And then if you bought it at the beginning of the cruise, you saved a little money. So I think we paid like $80. And then they have a faster one. I don't know what that costs, though.
Uh-huh.
So just so you know, there's some different internet options. But that was kind of nice as opposed to doing it by megabytes, so you didn't have to worry about that. And so they'll say it's per account, but my husband and I shared it. And so you could actually also just kick a person off. So it would say, this account's already logged in. You want to kick them off? Yep. And you can kick them off. So, like, a family can share the internet package, which is really nice. So you're not, and you can use it on more than one device. So we used it on, 4 of the devices, basically, throughout the cruise. One person can be on at a time.
That might cause a war in our little family when our little guy kicks my wife off or something like that. Do you want to kick your mom off? Yes, I do.
Well, then you just punish them. Fortunately, we don't have to share with a child yet. We only have to share with each other.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah,
trust me. Well, cool. So overall, it sounds like you guys had a great trip.
Yeah, we really did. Warm chocolate melting cake. That's it. That's all I have to say. It's amazing. Disney has nothing like it. It's not 8 nights in a row either.
And I guess the only other thing that we really didn't touch on was just getting on and off the ship. You said it was a little bit slow getting on, but how about the getting off the ship?
We were lucky again because we had that priority boarding. Like, I would definitely tell people to pay for Faster the Fun because my mom was given a luggage tag that would have had her getting off at 10:30. And so you have to leave your room by 8:30 and you don't get off till 10:30. So you're sitting in a public place where they're making an announcement. I would want to shoot myself.
Yeah.
The one good thing, though, they do have the dining room is open until 8:30 in the morning, and as long as you've arrived by 8:30, you get to eat there. So for breakfast, so we ate there that last morning. Of course, I had my eggs Benedict. Well, and it was so much easier to just order the same thing. They didn't mess it up.
Right.
I had the same thing the whole entire week.
And you liked it too, so.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
So, and I don't get to eat eggs Benedict at home. One day, though, they put olives in the gluten-free bread. Huh. Like, who's putting olives in the bread? So, it was weird. Everything's an adventure. But, so you could do that. Everybody else you get kicked out of your room and you have to go to the public place. Fortunately, though, because we were in the cabin that we had with the priority boarding, we got off we could leave anytime after like 8:30, I think.
Well, that's kind of nice. So you could kind of just pace it at your own pace as far as when you wanted to go.
So we left our room at like 8:20, went for breakfast, and left the ship around 9:30 maybe.
Okay.
And that was all fine because we weren't sitting in a public place waiting. The luggage carousel, so they do it on a carousel, is really slow.
Really?
It's like painfully slow. So, like, I'm thinking this can't be the speed that this should be going. So, and as opposed to just putting them in areas, they have it on a carousel and they're numbered. So you just figure out what number you are based on the ticket they give you. And then you find, but it's really incredibly slow.
Do they have their own, does Carnival have their own, like, section of the port, or do they share? I don't even know.
No, they had their own.
Okay. We're going to Miami next month, so kind of a new adventure for us. We haven't been down there yet, so
we took Uber from our hotel to get to the ship, and that seemed to work out really well.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you that offline actually, but so that worked pretty good from the hotel. Where'd you guys stay?
We stayed at the Embassy Suites at the airport.
Okay.
So, this is interesting too. So we stayed at the Embassy Suites. We flew into Fort Lauderdale. I took a car that I had prearranged to get me to the Miami airport because it just saved us a ton of money on airfare. But I wanted to be near Miami. So we stayed at the Embassy Suites. They have like a cocktail hour in the evening, which was fine. And like pop and appetizers. And nothing I could have, frankly, because of the gluten stuff. Because I could drink the drinks, but I couldn't eat any of the food. My husband had some, and my kid did. So, and they have breakfast. Not a good breakfast, but it's breakfast nonetheless, and it's included in the price of your stay. So the airport, from the Miami airport to the pier, their set rates. It's like $27. But from across the street, literally, I could see American Airlines like planes out my window. It literally was across the street. It was now the bellman at our hotel thought it was going to be $40 to take a cab.
Really?
And I was like, but it's free from right there. Yes. Or $27 from right there. Yes, that's how much it costs. So you could do their transportation, but I would never do, something to consider, I would never do the transportation from the hotel going to the cruise with everybody else, because you have to wait for all those people to get on board, all those people to get their luggage. And unless you're with a really large group of people, you're not saving money.
Right.
Yeah. Or with like one person.
So we're we're staying at the Hilton next to the airport, and yeah, they quoted us $15 a person, so that's like $60 for the four of us.
Yeah, take Uber.
Uber's a lot cheaper than that. I know that, so that was kind of our plan.
Uber was going to be like $25, I think. Not even, I don't think.
Yeah.
And somehow I had a ride coupon, so I only paid $6.
So no problem. I mean, there's plenty of Uber drivers as far as getting a car that day.
It was super easy. We had to do. Oh, sorry. Go on.
I keep talking over you. I'm sure there's a ton of ships leaving, on those days. So.
Yeah, we needed an extra large one too. We couldn't go with like a standard car because we have too much stuff.
Right.
At that point, with all 4 people and
Mom's
stuff.
scooter.
So. Yeah. Well, no, she rents the scooter.
Oh, that's right. She rented. I'm sorry. I forgot.
That's okay. So, which is just so much easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we needed a van, but it was still no issues at all. I mean, I think from the time we put it in, it said it was going to be 8 minutes or 10 minutes for the van to get to us. The minivans, those extra large ones that are like either an SUV or a minivan or something like that. And it was really nice, super clean. I always find these Uber vehicles to be so much cleaner than cabs.
Yeah, I use them a lot now on the road, and I love Uber. It's like totally opened up my whole world as far as being able to travel and see things, and I've never had a bad experience. So
no, the way back, so from the ship to the airport, we ended up just taking a cab because that line we could figure out. It was right there, and you just get your van cab, and you're good to go.
Right.
We knew what the price was going to be. Because Uber changed their app where you either have to give them access to your location all the time or you have to put in your address. And I just didn't feel like going through and changing it back so they can have access to me. So we just took a cab. But I would still imagine it would be less expensive and cleaner because the cabs are not clean.
Well, cool. Good tips for me and hopefully good tips for other people as far as if you're going to be sailing out of the Port of Miami. So
fun. Check out the Vista. If people are Carnival cruisers, I would go on the Vista. Service is definitely a little bit different. And I feel like in some areas there was less people than maybe should be. But for the most part, it was fine. For the most part, it was enthusiastic employees. And it was a really, really cool ship.
So your next trip coming up is March?
Oh, my God. It's in 2 weeks.
Oh, I mean the next cruise. I know you're going to Disney World before that, but...
Well, the cruise is in 3 weeks.
Okay.
We're exhausted. We're tired. So, we're excited. So, yes, Disney Cruise Line.
Back
3
to
weeks
back.
from tomorrow.
Is it back-to-back or something like that? Or what do they call that? It's aren't you doing back-to-back, or is it just a double dip? That's what it is.
Yeah, but that's in June.
That's in June.
This is just a normal cruise on the Fantasy.
Okay. I'm sorry. Just the normal cruise. And where are you going on that? Just real quick for everybody.
Western Caribbean.
All right.
So Jamaica, Cozumel, and the Cayman Islands. And actually this weekend, my plan is to figure out what we're going to do. We have some stuff reserved, but none of it is final as to what I want to do. So that's the plan, is to figuring out what we're actually going to do on this cruise.
Well, cool. And that's out of Port Canaveral.
Yes.
Yeah. I can't speak to
Canaveral. And we're spending 3 nights before, mostly 3 instead of 2, because we could not get airfare that I would agree to pay for to Florida. So I did Disney math, and we are staying 1 extra day. And at Saratoga Springs before the cruise. I'm pretty excited.
Well, when you get back from that, let's get back together, and we'll talk about your guys' cruise on, is it the Fantasy or the Dream?
The Fantasy.
The Fantasy. So we'll talk
Fantasy does the 7-night cruises. The Dream does shorter ones.
That's right. See, I should know this, right? 'Cause I'm...
Well, that's why you have me, to help remind you.
Exactly. And just to put a plug out for you, as far as cruising Carnival, and everybody knows that Christy's a travel agent, you can book Carnival cruises, right, as well?
I can.
It's not just Disney, so if you're interested in talking to Christy more, I will put her information. I'll let her give it here in just a second, but I'll put her information in the show notes as well. So feel free to reach out to her to talk to her more about Carnival, Disney, or any of the other cruise lines.
Yes, any other travel. It's so much fun.
Where can they reach you at, Christy?
I have a website at packyourpixiedust.com, or you can find me on social media on Facebook and Instagram at packyourpixiedust, and then finally on Twitter at packyrpixiedust.
Cool.
So come and let's talk travel.
Definitely. And I will put that in the show notes for everybody if you didn't get that, and you can find it there as well. Well, thanks again for coming on, Christy. I really appreciate it, and I want to wish you safe sailing in March and look forward to talking to you then, if not sooner.
Thanks for having me back.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Well, there you go. That's going to wrap up today's show. And it was fun listening to Christy and her family's experience as they cruised on the Carnival Vista. Having not cruised Carnival before, it was kind of neat to see some of the differences that they've experienced or that they experienced on it compared to what myself and my family have experienced on DCL and on Norwegian. So look for Christy in March to talk about her sailings on DCL, and then we'll kind of compare and contrast the two at a later episode after that. As always, if between now and then, if you want to reach out to me, you can reach me on Facebook at DCL Podcast and also on Twitter at DCL Podcast. And I'm thinking about making a few changes to my Twitter account. Right now, I've got 2 different ones, and it's kind of confusing myself to kind of run the 2 different accounts. I'm thinking about consolidating them into just one account, and I will let you know that as soon as I do that. But for right now, you can reach me on at DCL Podcast on Twitter as well. And if anybody out there would like to, in reaching out, would like to come on the show, it's pretty easy to do. We just record on Skype, and usually pretty flexible on when we can record as well. So if you'd like to share your experiences or your family's experiences sailing on a recent DCL cruise, that would be fun to do. So please feel free to reach out to me. Until then, I'd like to wish you and your family safe travels and fair winds. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks, everybody.